Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 7, and it's not necessarily good news, but it's sort of surprising but not surprising news at the same time if you knew what was going on. So, you can read it from the title. Hartley Sawyer, who played Elongated Man, has been fired from The Flash, and we'll jump into exactly why if you weren't aware. I'm sure, I'd assume most of you would know what had happened to him, but if you didn't have Twitter, and maybe you didn't see his Instagram post, you might be in the dark about exactly what happened. So we'll go over the Hollywood Reporter article who got the, I guess, quote-unquote exclusive of him being fired from the show. And, yeah, so we'll go over that. And there's also another statement from Eric Wallace, the showrunner, about this all. Pretty much this just comes into... There's a couple of things that tie into all of this. Obviously, there's one, bad timing, there's cancel culture, but we'll jump into it throughout this video. But here's the first part of the Hollywood Reporter article. Actor Hartley Sawyer has been fired from The Flash after a host of his tweets containing misogynist and racist references were surfaced in the past week. The tweets, all from before he joined the CW series, make references to sexual assault and contain racist and homophobic language. Sawyer's Twitter account has been deleted, but screenshots of the old posts have circulated online in the past 2 weeks, roughly. His firing also comes amid nationwide protests against systematic racism in the wake of George Floyd's May 25th death in Minneapolis. Hartley Sawyer will not be returning for Season 7 of The Flash, reads a statement from the CW producers, Warner Brothers TV, and Valenti Productions, and executive producer Eric Wallace. In regards to Mr. Sawyer's post on social media, we do not tolerate derogatory remarks that target any race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, or sexual orientation. Such remarks are antithetical, whatever it is, to our values and policies, which strive and evolve to promote a safe, inclusive, and productive environment for our workforce. So that's the, I guess, joint statement that you usually get when something like this happens, whether it's like the Ruby Rose situation, you got like a joint statement from the production company and the showrunner and stuff. So that's like the one they would have sat down, and I guess maybe the people that went through the firing got it all written down and stuff. But if you didn't know what had happened, as that thing from the Hollywood Reporter does say, pretty much what happened was, and you see it's similar to like the James Gunn situation. That's probably the most similar thing here. But Hartley's were across like a couple of different issues, if you want to call it. I'm not going to bring any of them up. One, because I don't really want to say them in a video because it'd probably get me demonetized. But if you want to look them up, I guess you could just type in like Hartley Sawyer on Twitter or Hartley Sawyer tweets on Twitter and you'd find them. Even Google might work to find them. But overall, I think there's only one that would have been the dagger in the heart. There's one that's really bad and so relevant, if you want to call it, to what's going on today in America and what the protests stand for. I think that one was probably the dagger in the heart. Don't get me wrong, there's a bunch there that are bad. Some are just really bad attempts at edgy humor, because all of them were just bad attempts at edgy humor, but some of them, like one of them is just like completely racist, and a couple of them, actually a decent handful of them, are pretty bad in regards to being like misogynist or misogynistic, and just like in very bad taste in regards to sexual assault and various things like that. So when I saw these things, at first I was like, oh my god, he's probably gone here. But as time went on, I thought, it depends how he handles it. And it depends, I guess, the response from people. Now, the thing is, the news went away after 2 days, which I thought might have gone in his way. But there was still the fact that there were a couple of really bad tweets there that were both offensive to women and also people of color, mainly black people or African Americans. And you got to remember, the Flash cast has a lot of women and a decent amount of African American cast. It would have been hard for him to go to work knowing that for them to know that he had put that out in the past. So it was always going to be a difficult area. It was going to depend on how he handled it behind closed doors. He might have handled it really well, but they still thought, we've got to let you go anyway. But Eric Wallace, the showrunner, did tweet out his own statement that goes beyond that joint statement from the producers and stuff. And this is what he wrote. This morning, many of you learned that Hartley Sawyer will not be returning for Season 7 of The Flash. Concerning his social media tweets, they broke my heart and made me mad as hell, and they're indicative of the larger problem in our country. Because at present, our country still accepts and protects the continual harassment, unconscious or otherwise, terrorizing and brutalizing of black and brown people, which is far too often fatal. That's why our country is standing up once again and shouting enough, and taking to the streets to bring about active change. I too am committed to bringing permanent change to the work environment here on The Flash. Yes, this is a family show, but it's for all families. That includes black and brown ones. In order to facilitate this, I will continue to find black and brown writers, directors, actors, and producers of all genders to help tell Flash stories. Their stories are part of the American narrative too, and must be heard. And the more you hear and see us, the more you will begin to recognize one simple fact: we're human beings too. To those who still aren't sure as to why so many Americans have taken to the streets to make their voices known, I ask you to consider this. Every time a black or brown life is harassed, harmed, or murdered, as in the case of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and too many others, our entire country fractures and moves further and further away from any moral authority we often claim to have in the world. Murder is not democracy. Systematic and institutional white privilege is not equality. Suppressing the free press with violence is not liberty. The only way for you to be free is for all of us to be free. So that's a really well put together statement by Eric Wallace. It doesn't really have to do too much with, I guess, what happens post Hartley. It doesn't really have any. It's just the fact that this is why he was fired, and this is our backing as to why he was fired and why we had to let him go. Which I don't think any of us can disagree with. Obviously, the big issue, not the big issue, but the thing that is always an issue with Twitter is the cancel culture thing. It's not too surprising that, so if you didn't know what happened on Twitter, pretty much, obviously the whole Black Lives Matter thing happened, and there was like, I think this was only maybe like, I want to say like 3 days after the George Floyd thing happened, I want to say. This is going back 2 weeks, so it's roughly around then. So obviously there was the big thing about social media, about posting either about George Floyd or about just what's actually happening in America, because you can extend it to an international audience, especially if you have a social media following through a show or something like that. So there was issues about people not reposting it, whether it's something on their Instagram story, sending out a tweet, or even making a video for themselves and putting on their Instagram, something along those lines. And there was an issue where people weren't doing this, and in particular it was people that weren't either a minority or people that weren't African American, who what was going on was currently affecting the most. So people were targeting people that weren't tweeting it out, which I can understand. I think it's like, you have a following, you should be saying something. But it's important to remember sometimes if you're not in that demographic, whether it's something about women's rights or about LGBT rights, or in this case about minority rights or Black Lives Matter, you don't want to tweet out something without thinking it over first. And I think a large amount of people that hadn't posted at that point were doing that because people just don't know how to handle it. I don't know what Hartley's situation was or some other people, but then what he ended up posting seemed a bit like copy and paste, I think, from what a lot of other people were posting. And unfortunately, he got cancelled. So he got Twitter cancelled, or people went through his tweets, pretty much going like at Hartley Sawyer, and then a term, and then found all those tweets. Is cancel culture wrong? Yes. But are his tweets wrong? Yes, 100%. And it just comes down to the fact, like, when you get hired onto a big show, with some following, hire someone to delete your tweets from before you get hired, or at least at a point where you knew you weren't tweeting out that edgy stuff. So it's a mistake on Hartley, his management, and I guess even the CW, that they didn't recommend that, because this hurts the CW a lot, that they hired someone that did this. So it's bad for a couple of people that they didn't think about doing that. And this is going to be another example of like, if you get hired on a show, hire someone to delete your Twitter history, because otherwise this is a very possible situation. So, and it's caught up to Hartley. Look, should he have said that stuff? No, but it could have easily been avoidable and no one would have ever known. And I'm sure Hartley as a person has changed. I think it's an important thing to say. But the fact that he put this out there must have you thinking that there's something like ingrained that he would still say now, or he says it behind closed doors with other people. So yeah. But I guess the big thing is going forward, what happens here. Now, I don't think any of these articles, let me go to the Hollywood Reporter article, they don't say anything about it either, about what happens going forward. We might get a recasting, because it's important to remember they also, like I don't think it's necessarily vital that Ralph's there, but they also set up the Sue Dibny arc, and she's meant to, that's got to continue next season. So do they recast Ralph, or do they do something where, and this might be a very possible situation, so some of you might agree with me when I say this, is that obviously one of Ralph's abilities is that he could change his like appearance and look like someone else. So maybe they could make it that he, off screen, he changes into someone else, and then he gets hit by something and he loses that ability specifically. He can still stretch and do other elongated man things, but he can't change his appearance because he got hit by like a bolt of lightning or got zapped or something like that, and he gets stuck looking like that person. That's the way they could do it if they want to keep Ralph as a character on the show, but obviously have to fire Hartley Sawyer. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do around this. It's a tricky situation. It's probably not as bad as the Ruby Rose situation of Batwoman, but up that alley. But I'm sure we'll hear about it in the next couple of months as they head closer and closer to beginning filming for season 7. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky situation. It's one you definitely wouldn't want to be in regards to either firing him or even just having to go through the process of fixing that issue up on the show as well. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I guess if you enjoyed the video, I guess if you wanted Hartley fired, then I guess you enjoyed the video. So if you enjoyed it, you can drop a like on the video to show your support on the channel. Let me know in the comment section down below. What's your immediate reaction to this? Did this shock you? Did you think he was going to get fired anyway? I was in the middle because I was like, well, it just depends how he handles it, but there were those like there's a handful of very, very bad ones that were like really bad. So yeah, I'm not too surprised it was let go, but let me know your opinions in the comment section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.